Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Cost Cutters. I'm Justin Barrientos. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk Warrior Volleyball with Joe Getson. Thanks for being here today.
Well, thanks for having us again.
Before we get into this weekend's matches, which were very exciting, I want to get into the coaches poll because on Monday the new coaches poll was released, and it's amazing because there are 8 NSIC teams that are in the top 25. 8 of them. And 4 of them are in the top 10. You and Augustana are receiving votes. So 10 of the 16 teams in the NSIC are close to the top 25, which is just amazing to me. Minnesota State is right there. A little bit of drop in the final 5, but still, all of those teams obviously realize what's at the top of the conference, and so they're gunning for you, so there's really no off weekends. Have you ever been a part, I mean, obviously with the NSIC, it seems like it's that way each and every year, but is that amazing to have that in a conference?
It truly is, and I think that's why, the conference has had so much success with volleyball. It's every night. Our teams learn how to play at that high level. They don't take an off night. There isn't an easy match. And because of that, I think it prepares us for the tournament and the success that, the teams have had going into the national tournament.
What is your thought on watching the rankings? Because I know that some coaches don't like to see that. They like to kind of push it off to the side. They don't want their players to know what's going on. Do you encourage it? Do you discourage it?
I don't have an issue. I don't really play it up. It's out there. The kids know it. Interesting enough, I think something that you overlook a little bit is that in our region, which is the important thing of making the NCAA tournament, we only take 8 teams from our region. 1 team won't be ranked and everyone else would be ranked, as we also have the Missouri Conference in there. And if you look at that, I think there's 7 more teams from that conference that's ranked in the top 25. So out of the top 25, we probably own 12 of those spots.
Wow, that is amazing.
So that's the hard part is, you could be number 15 in the country and not make the NCAA tournament. And, you go to any other region, you're probably going to win that region. People ask me all the time, how do you deal with it? Well, it is what it is, and you just better be in the top 3 in their conference if you want a guaranteed spot.
How does that work with recruiting then? Because obviously the top teams are going to be going after everybody, and you can say, hey, we're right there with everybody.
Well, we recruit pretty much regionally, and with that, everyone seems to know the strength of the conference, and they want to be a part of that. They want to have an opportunity to compete, and I think we're right there, day in and day out with those top teams, so it's an opportunity for them to get some playing time against that level of play.
All right, let's get into the matches that you had this weekend because you got back on track. Bemidji State, you jumped out, and this was the Friday match where it was the first home match that you had in a long time. Before we get to the game, what was it like to finally have home matches?
Well, it's so nice for the kids, traveling is hard on them just from an academic standpoint. In fact, they want to leave an hour later this upcoming weekend because they just sit in a hotel for an hour, and it's one more class that they miss. And we have a team GPA of 3.53, so they're very academic. I bring that down, so that to them is really important, is the academic piece, and to me as well. But being on the road is tough on them that way, and making up class time and that sort of thing. So being home is just a nice relaxing atmosphere. They can not stress about school, and most importantly, they get to play in front of family and friends.
All right, well, you definitely use that to your advantage, out to a 14-2 lead in the first set against Bemidji. What was it like to see your team do that?
Well, one of the things we talk about, as Madison will talk about later too, is that we don't play the other team on the other side. We focus every day on our side of the net and what we're doing there. And I think we played probably the cleanest 10 points of the year coming out of the gate. And I feel sorry for Bemidji State, walking into that buzzsaw, but it wouldn't matter who was on the other side of the net. We would have played really well.
All right, Madison Reisner is our guest. She'll join us in just a minute, but 13 kills and 3 block assists in that first. Is it hard to remind yourself that she's just a sophomore and some of your girls are so young?
Yeah, she played a lot as a freshman and showed that she can play at this level. So, I'm seeing more and more growth from Madison. I think she's turning into a dominant player at the net with her blocking skills. And when you see her attack, she's fun to watch. Boy, she gets off the ground fast and jumps really well.
All right, we're kind of running out of time here, and I got to get to a couple more things. So I want to get to Minnesota Crookston. That was a straight set victory. But what really jumped out at me is the second set attacking percentage for Crookston. .000. How often does something like that happen?
It will happen in a set. That isn't unusual. We're holding our teams that we play down to a pretty low hitting percentage. But to get them to hit 0 means that they're either making a lot of errors or we're not allowing a lot of kills. And I think we played some really good defense this weekend at home. So that puts a lot of pressure on the other teams attacking-wise.
And then the other thing about the Minnesota Crookston match, you never trailed in the match. You jumped out to an early lead and never looked back.
Well, once again, I think just playing at home, the girls are really comfortable on our court, and we played some good ball, so it was fun. And we've talked about that. Even on the road, we've got to do a better job of just stringing points together. So. Okay.
Were there any performances this weekend that jumped out to you or that maybe surprised you?
Well, we had a couple. I think, our backcourt of Casey Volkman and Sarah Sweets, who our defensive specialists come in, don't always get the accolades, but they had some great matches and once again frustrated the other teams with their defense, and then it's hard to put the ball down. So they had some really good matches, and I think everyone is starting to get into that groove. I think on Saturday night, Kate Mossberg had a great match and changed up her shot selection a little bit, and that made a huge difference for us as well.
And then you had another kind of milestone, Becca Pagel, 20 digs against Crookston to crack the top 15 in career digs.
Yes, she had 1,000 earlier in the year, and she's just continuing down that path, and I think she's becoming more comfortable in her role as well, and it really showed this weekend.
All right, final minute. Let's talk about what's coming up. You have 2 more nationally ranked opponents in Sioux Falls and Southwest Minnesota State. How do you prepare for those?
Well, I don't think we have to prepare any differently. We've got things that we're still working on in our gym. And with that, it's a lot of defensive work. I think we're improving our blocking, and we'll keep serving hard. That's always important.
All right, well, thank you for joining us here. And
thank you.
And hopefully the roll continues this weekend.
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to take a break here on Warrior Report. Madison Reisner will join us right after this.
Get ready to rock the block. 4 top designers, 4 suburban homes. The renovation showdown is on.
This is my turn. I don't like to lose. This is gonna be fun.
I'm gonna crush the competition.
It's time to rock the block. Rock the Block. Series premiere Monday, October 21st at 9 on HGTV.
Perfect.
Perfect. Perfect.
Getting the right look at the right price
Perfect.
is always in style at Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-6030.
And welcome back to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25, brought to you by Cost Cutters. Madison Reisner now joins us. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
We always like to go back the first time that we talk to somebody and talk about their high school days and find out who they were before they came to Winona State. And you kept busy in high school, volleyball, basketball, track and field. How did you manage to juggle all those different sports and homework and have a life to yourself? How did that work?
In high school, now it's kind of the same for me because I'm also in track. So I got really good at it, playing club and AAU basketball also. So I was always busy, always traveling, really never home. There was really no point in me having a home. But I had to come back to somewhere. But yeah, so I'm still used to it now, so it's still going good. Yeah.
Did you have to, set up like a schedule to make sure that everything got done in time, or was it fairly easy once you got towards your junior and senior years? You'd been living that life forever, so.
Yeah, it actually got a lot easier for me. Honestly, it seems like it should get harder, but the flow just kept going, so.
Okay.
Just works out, yeah.
All right. Over 1,000 career kills at Richland Center, Conference Player of the Year twice. I'm guessing volleyball was probably your favorite sport then?
Yeah, definitely my favorite sport. Even though basketball at the beginning of my childhood was a big part, I realized volleyball was for me over all the rest of the sports. So.
Okay. And then how did you find out about Winona State, and how did you finally decide to come here?
I found out through my coach at club. He's like, Coach wants to like have you come to some camps, and I was like, okay, great. Wasn't expecting that, but awesome. So then that's how I got here. Went to a few camps, then talked to coach, and then we figured out this was a place for me. He brought up playing 2 sports, which I really loved that. So it was also a big deciding factor for me, as well as the academic programs and athletics and everything.
All right. You've had several athletes that have played 2 sports, volleyball and then something else. What do you think about those types of athletes, and do you kind of encourage that to maybe play more than
Well, I don't know if I encourage it. There's certain athletes that can pull it off, and Madison is one of them. She's very gifted, and working with track and field is so easy. They do a great job of accommodating us, and that's the big thing is, you know, she has to do her track stuff, but not at the cost of volleyball stuff. And they're accommodating and work their schedule around our practice time, so it works out for us that way.
All right. Well, as you mentioned, you do track as well for Winona State. You do the jumps, high jump, long jump, triple jump. How did you decide that that was the focus that you wanted to do in track?
Running just really wasn't for me, honestly. Especially like distance, that was for sure out. But then sprints was just, they were fun, but I'm not going to run a 400. I just can't do that. But the jumps is the perfect amount of sprint with jumping, which is my biggest gift. So it was just perfect for me.
Is there a correlation between volleyball then and the jumping part of track? Because obviously you have to jump a lot in volleyball. Does one help out the other?
I think they do personally. One thing that is kind of hard is triple jump, you want to go long, or volleyball, you want to go up, which is more of a high jump. So just finding that balance when I come to volleyball again, and not jumping through the net, but jumping up and go through it, which is sometimes difficult, but I've gotten better at it. So.
Okay, let's talk about then this past weekend for Warrior Volleyball. How important was it to you to have home matches for the first time this season?
It was really important. We were traveling for at least like 3 weekends, we could say, but it was really weeks. Like throughout the week, you had to catch up on so much, whereas home, you don't have to as much. You still have to be there and like catch up, but you don't have to do homework at the hotel and stuff like that. So it was awesome to be home.
All right, and how have the crowds been? Have you been noticing some over the years that more people are coming to the games?
Yeah, actually Friday night was awesome. Like it was outstanding. All the crowd, like the environment to play in was just awesome.
All right, now I know you have a tough weekend coming up with some nationally ranked teams coming up. What does the team have to do? What do you have to do to be successful this weekend?
I think we just need to focus on how we play, not how they play, not what they're bringing to us. Like we know they're going to get good kills, we're going to get good kills back. It's just how the game's going to go, and we just need to focus on that.
All right, well, thank you for joining us here today, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, and we're going to take a break here on Warrior Report. When we come back, we'll talk men's cross country. That's right after this.
Hello? Anyone back here?
I felt this overwhelming, get out, get out.
What the hell?
Hurry up!
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Getting the right look at the right price. Perfect. Is always in style. At Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-60.
And welcome back to the Warrior Report. We're brought to you by Cost Cutters of Winona. We're going to switch our attention now to men's cross country. Zach Kuhn is here for another visit. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me back.
Let's talk a little bit about what we kind of ended the last interview on. Nikki Staffen was on here, and she was talking about some of the things that you have done as a coach to kind of help her along, help the rest of her teammates along, and I assume on the men's side as well. What are some of the different kind of strategies and things that you're teaching your cross-country runners to use in some of these meets?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, she was talking about kind of the small things and focusing on those a lot. And I guess it kind of starts with just really, I mean, the thing I always say is living the running lifestyle. Another kind of thing I commonly say is, you know, the 2 hours that you're there at practice are the easiest 2 hours of your day because they're planned out for you. And it's the other 22 hours that really make the difference between being good and great or even just average and good. So that's kind of where it starts, and really just saying, not that running consumes your life, but if it's important to you, then kind of living it out as if, hey, this is important to me, therefore I do things a certain way and I live a certain way. So that's kind of where it starts, is really just making running something that you love. For the most part, athletes have made it this far because they love to run, and I think that there's oftentimes a disconnect with how do I really be as good as I want to be, and you know, if I'm saying one thing but living another way, and just trying to show that. And when people really do get on board, it's kind of a night and day difference, and it works really well, I think. So that's kind of where it starts foundationally. More practically, I think what returners notice with me as a new coach, or heading into second year now, people that were there, like Nikki is in her 5th year now, so she had 3 years without me and now 2 with me. What they notice is kind of the details of everything is really planned out. And we start with a pre-run circuit and a post-run circuit every day, with the main goal of injury prevention, but also just kind of the effort, I guess, that I have to make sure things are in line with kind of the research and scientific principles are out there, to make sure that what we're doing is by no means a waste of time, but everything has a purpose. And try and explain that purpose to them when I can, but for the most part, what they recognize is like, hey, there's a lot of little different things that we have to do, whereas cross country seems like, oh, you just run from point A to point B as fast as you can. It seems so simple, and it is, but kind of in the background when I'm trying to plan things out is a lot more complicated. So the little circuits like that, the stuff we do in the weight room, and the timing of all that. Another thing I always say is it's not so much what you do, but when you do it. And that's kind of a lot of things where people have really never thought about before, like, oh, we do things in a certain order to get this adaptation, or we do only certain things on certain days for a reason, you know, and just trying to explain and you know, ultimately ask a lot of them, especially on the days where we are going hard.
When you mentioned that people who don't pay attention to cross country thinks that it's just run A to run B, I guess that's kind of something that maybe I am learning in interviewing you and everybody else. But there's an individual and a team aspect in cross country. Can you kind of tell us how that balances out?
Yeah, and I guess I'll use our last race as the best example. This last race was a smaller race in terms of the size of the field, and that impacts how the race plays out. And you can imagine that if there's the same course and one race has 300 people in it versus one race having 100 people in it, that's different as far as how crowded it is and how fast a race is kind of forced to go out to narrow in to fit on the same path. So this being a smaller one, it naturally probably would not have gone out as fast. And in preparation for our next meet, which will be ultimately probably the biggest or most competitive Division II meet in the country, I asked them to be more on the offensive and to take it out ourselves harder. We were comfortable thinking that we could have won the race anyway on the women's side, or that on the men's side we would at least be in the mix no matter what. But I said, in order to prepare us for the meets that matter most, let's try and get out really hard and be aggressive. And it worked out well. For the women, they did still win. For the men, we had a good battle with UW Parkside and ultimately came out on the losing end there. But we're still able to beat, you know, several of the other teams there. And I guess the difference was we kind of sacrificed maybe some individual things that we could have accomplished on that day for what the team could accomplish later in the year. So I know that when we made ourselves go out hard when it wasn't necessary now, they'll be able to go out hard when it requires that in a big field in 2 weeks.
All right. So can you talk about maybe some of the individual type of performances and how that relates to team success? I know that Josh Sharpie is a name that's in there. Isaiah, who's our guest today, is kind of a name that's been in every meet. What is it that they have brought to the team this season?
Yeah, both those names you mentioned, Josh and Isaiah, as well as Isaiah's twin brother, Micah, those are three that just decided to stay in Winona this summer, and I think that that in itself was huge. I mean, they're not working with me when they're here in the off season, but they're working with each other, and they were able to really just develop and foster that running lifestyle that I talked about. And you know, they love it, and it's obvious with what they put into it. And you know, the best part about our sport is more than any other sport. I'd say what you put into it, you get out of it, and that is just obvious right away. So when they've come on this fall after having huge summers of training, I mean, as you mentioned, Josh Sharpie has been, you know, at the front of races consistently, was second this past weekend. Isaiah was our number 6 to 7 runner in most races last year. We only graduated 1, and now he's consistently been our number 2. And it's by no means has he just moved up on our team. He's moved up significantly in competition. I mean, really a night and day difference between where he was placing in races last year to where he is this year. And so a big change for Isaiah, and everyone on the team really is kind of increasing their mileage and running a lot more. And again, when I ask them to set the pace at smaller races like this, they're confident and comfortable and fit enough to do it, and they can really take it out hard despite having, when you reach that mile mark, 4 miles to go.
We have just about a minute left in this segment, but you have one more meet that's coming up before the NSIC Championships, and you were saying that this is maybe the most important one heading into the postseason. What do you have to do in this meet to get you ready for the postseason?
This is a unique situation where, like I mentioned, it's going to be the biggest meet in Division II, both in size and competitiveness. So in many ways, it's going to be more competitive and deeper than our both our NSIC championship and our regional championship. So that's why we try to use some of these earlier meets to maybe prepare us more specifically for those ones. But this will give athletes the best chance to really see where they're at against people from other parts of the country. Last year there was representatives from 8 of the 9 regions there, so we're really talking about the entire country, or most of it, having someone there. It could be, I think the biggest takeaway there, or biggest thing we can get from it, is no matter how we do there, it almost gives more confidence knowing that, hey, these next meets, even though they're our championships, are actually going to be smaller. And if we could go out in a field of kind of national level competition, we know we can go and mix it up with our conference level and regional level teams.
All right, very good. We're going to take a break here on Warrior Report. When we come back, Isaiah Warning will join us right after this.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Getting the right look at the right price. Perfect. Is always in style. At Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-60.
Business Internet just reached the tipping point. Tip your hat to the information age. Get a gig for business and upload robust files, complex videos, and compound reports at the same time, in real time, while saving time. For DISA and data, get a gig. Got it? Now get going. Get Luminet Gigabit for Business backed by 24/7 wizard support from HBC. Call us today.
Perfect.
Perfect. Perfect.
Getting the right look at the right price
Perfect.
is always in style at Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-6030.
And welcome back to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. We're here with Isaiah Warning. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, usually we go backwards to high school, but since you're a senior and since you have such an interesting story, I kind of want to get into that first. Your journey here to Winona State after high school in Mankato is kind of interesting. Can you kind of walk us through how you ended up on the cross country team?
Yeah, so it is kind of like a long story in a way. So after I graduated from Mankato East in 2015, I wanted to be kind of like the hometown kid, run for MSU, Mankato. And I kind of thought that I had it laid out. I mean, I was in kind of contact with the coach at the time, and it just ended up not really being a thing. Like, I wasn't really guaranteed anything at all. But I never lost contact in what I wanted to do. Like, I was just set that I was going to run for MSU. And I just kept going through the motions there, and then running by myself. And first year went by, and I just didn't have anything. I didn't really present enough. Wasn't really doing that great. And then the second year also was just kind of the same situation where I was just running on my own, designing my own workouts, running around 50 miles a week or so, and just kind of dealing with little things there, and just trying to stay focused on what I wanted, and still kind of keeping in contact with the coaches, and doing a couple unattached races, but obviously nothing was eye-catching. I wasn't really doing the right workouts. I was just kind of running out there as hard as I could almost every day, which isn't really ideal for what you need to do. And then going into my junior season, I thought, this was it. I put a lot of miles in the summer, and it was still kind of the same thing where I didn't present enough. And I mean, I was kind of hoping for a shot that, if I could get on the team, then I could, I would just show them what I could do. And it just never happened. They just didn't really see anything, which is, I guess, pretty understandable. I didn't really present enough, and it's not like my times in high school were amazing, But I noticed that at that time, my brother, during our junior year, was at Winona State, and I was kind of talking back with him, and I went out to visit a couple of times, and I'd watched them at their races, and I thought that was my best shot at getting what I really wanted, and I just wanted to be a part of a team. Academics were obviously very important to me, but I just needed something else. And Winona State had the RTTR program, and it had a team that was willing to take me on board. So then I made it here. I talked to the coach at the time, and he seemed to enjoy Micah, so I think that being twins, he could probably handle me. So I came here for my senior year, and now I'm here for my fifth, and it was kind of up and down. I kind of lost contact with what I wanted. It's hard to stay dedicated by yourself, just running every day, getting outdoors in the rain, sleet, winter. I had to do it all by myself just to get here. I didn't really have a training partner at all when I was back in Mankato, and once I got here, like it was go time. Like I was just ready for the opportunity. So it was quite the journey.
Wow. And although there is no organized men's track and field team at Winona State, you can still continue after the cross country season is over and still compete kind of as Winona State in track and field, correct?
Right. That is, that's the goal. Just kind of continue to build on what we started in cross country. Like we said, we get limited time with Zach. Obviously, there's certain times where we can't really meet, and we don't get to compete in the championship part of the season, so like conference and regions. But we still get we get practice time. We still get to travel to some meets, just kind of own transportation stuff. That we do get some transportation. It's a weird little area, but I mean overall, like it's still a good experience. We're not really losing much. We still get the same training and everything. So it just we'll still keep more distance. None of us are really going to go down to lower distances as far as like our races go. We'll keep it up at the 5K and the 1500, and sometimes the 10K. But so yeah, it just still keeps us motivated, and I'll be looking at continuing and maybe trying some new events, maybe like the steeplechase, something like that, for the senior season. But yeah, so it's pretty exciting. I do enjoy track as well.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us here today, and hopefully your story will show athletes never give up, and there's always going to be a chance.
Right.
All right. Thank you, and good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us here on Warrior Report. We'll see you next time here on HBC TV 25.